My leap was finding the courage to tune each of my actions to the frequency of my soul.
Welcome to Leap. My name is Cherene Francis, and today we have Alexander Michael Gittens with us. Welcome him to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here.
I am so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure, since we connected before off studio, and your story is just incredible, so inspirational, and so I'm really glad that we're here to share this with all the entrepreneurs that are watching us today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so let's start with your leap. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, well, off camera we were speaking about this, and the Hollywood version of my life is, here's a kid from a good family, but maybe not so great of a neighborhood, who was super shy, into sports, into music, but had something to say, but wasn't able to say it. Got caught up in the wrong crowd, got caught up in the streets, had legal issues, tax issues, business issues, and then made a decision one day to make all of my actions in line with my highest values and to see where that took me.
Wow.
So that decision was the leap, just deciding to, you know what, I'm gonna tune all my actions to what I believe to be right.
Wow. Can you tell us more about that time? Like what was happening with the legals and the tax issues?
Definitely. So what happened is when I was growing up, because I was so involved in music, I had a lot of opportunities to travel, to see a different world. So it would be like at home I'd be in an at-risk neighborhood, but then later in the day I'd be playing a grand piano in just an incredible location. And I wanted it. I wanted it all. I wanted the money, I wanted the affluence, I wanted to be comfortable in my own skin. And then I go to college, and I had a number of scholarships, but I was uncomfortable. I didn't adjust well, and I ended up losing all of the scholarships. I was broke. I was afraid to tell my family how poorly I was doing, and so I looked for any source of income I could find. So now I found a guy, he sold some goods. The goods were unbelievably illegal. And, well, not unbelievably illegal, but certainly there. And so I got caught up in that. Did quite well at it. So now I've got this sort of problem, because while I got all the things I wanted financially, my life isn't aligned with what I was taught growing up or what I wanted to do. So when all that fell apart, I got hit with all kinds of legal issues. Then the CRA came in and charged me with all kinds of money. It took me years to pay back. But because I had hit rock bottom, and because I knew that I was the cause of everything going wrong, the question was, what kind of man do I want to be moving forward? What choices am I going to make? And I think because the failure that I feared, the failure that a lot of people fear, but the disappointment that I'd allowed my family to go through and all of that, with that out of the way, it was curious because that allowed me to have a little bit more freedom to say, you know what, maybe this will never work out for me, but I'm going to try it this way. And just to trust that process.
So, when you hit that rock bottom and you were, I guess, in that point mulling over what had just occurred, what was the key thing, do you think, that really helped you, switch your mindset and move in the new direction?
A lot of people talk these days about finding happiness. And the thing that I had to reconcile was, I've never really been an unhappy person. I've got a good family, I've got lovely friends, but what I did have was a lot of confusion, a lot of frustration. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I felt like if I wanted to be a hockey player, I would just play hockey, go to the next level, then a coach would find me and I'd make the NHL. But I didn't even know what to want. Like I didn't know what area to go in or what way to get there. So for me, it was sort of coming out of that process. It was, here I am in legal issues, legal problems, facing all kinds of serious consequences because of the choices I made. What happens if I spend the next 10 years? And that's what I told myself. It's going to be 10 years. What happens if I spend the next 10 years just learning what greatness really is? Because clearly I don't know. Clearly I had it all wrong. So let me see if I spent my time learning it.
Yeah.
And what I discovered in that process, it was nothing short of life-changing.
Wow.
It was an incredible journey, hard journey.
What was your first learning? What was your first
step? Okay, so that's easy.
Yeah.
That's the first one was perhaps the most revolutionary one. And that's something I call the reassuring lie. So I call it the reassuring lie. So that is the misguided belief that something external needs to change.
Okay.
So for me, it was always, I'm a young black kid. Yeah. I need to get money, I need to get status, then people will look at, it's that Scarface equation. Yeah. Money, power, respect.
Yes.
So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Let me get this money and go from there.
Yeah.
But I realized all of my goals were externally motivated. Right. I never actually said, how can I have clients and give them the most amount of value? Right. How can I learn to use my talents to make things better when I'm involved? I was looking at it from a very fixed mindset. How can I extract this value? How can I figure out things? So the first thing I call the reassuring lie, that's the belief that something external needs to change. Yeah. Anything external, whether it's your family, your situation, the city you're in, or if I have more money after I work here for 2 years. For everyone it's different. But any moment you say something external needs to change, you've kind of surrendered your very power, and that is the freedom to react and act in alignment with your highest values.
Wow.
So that was the first one for sure. And that was so freeing. But I actually, if I'm honest, it took me years to actually put it into practice.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, like, that's a huge concept, really understanding that there's a root problem to everything that has been caused. So how did you apply that in your life, that first principle?
It's such a great question.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that you're able to ask that question, it shows a level of insight that unfortunately most people don't have.
Okay.
And absolutely, because it's not about, let me speak for myself. Yeah. For me, I felt like whatever I wanted to reach, this greatness, this plateau, this vision I had of myself being awesome and wealthy and cool, and it felt like it was far away. Right. And it felt like something I had to go and find. Right. So now I've got to find this place. Yes. And when I get to this place, it's going to be incredible. Mm-hmm. What I've learned is that greatness is not in the distance or the location or the external anything. Yeah. It's actually in my incremental choices. Yes. So the question for me is, am I going to line up my choices, where I go, who I go there with, what I say? When I'm in a situation where it's kind of tempting to kind of fall back into some old habits and take a shortcut, when no one's watching, am I actually going to say, this little action here, yes, I'm okay with this representing everything I'll ever be in legacy? So it took I learned the hard way and I learned slow, but I learned good. So once I got that lesson, the challenge was, can I apply this to every area of my life? Yeah. And it's been awesome. It's taken me through some pretty incredible.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
So you've actually consulted with lots of companies.
Consulted for lots.
Consulted for lots of companies,
yes.
businesses. And some of the clients that you've worked with, the people that you've worked with, have appeared, on Oprah.
Definitely. Yep.
You've even had conversations with Richard Branson.
I have. Yes.
Powerful people you've spoken with, worked with. Can you tell us about how the Alexander Michael Gittens, how you finding greatness and being encircled around greatness, how that dynamic worked for you?
Yeah, I think if I have one thing that I would want to get out there is I had no clue. So there's a lot of people that I mentor, some younger students, etc., and they're almost afraid with social media and all of that to say, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't even know what to want. Yeah. But because I had committed to adding value, it's the situations I was in, it took me as far as my work ethic would allow me to go. So for instance, when I was messaging people for proposals and will you work with me, and I'm on freelancing boards and are you going to hire me? Yeah. If it's a $50 job, and I had $50 jobs, am I treating that individual job like it's the only thing that I'll be judged upon in legacy? And what happened for me is, as I got used to operating at that level of intensity and value, I started to move up to places where I could have a higher impact. For me, one of the things that I had to work on was my communication skills. I was someone who, if I was around my friends or family, oh my goodness, I would be the life of the party. I'd be so silly. I'd have a lot of energy. But put me in new situations with people who are more accomplished, or I let myself feel small, and the words wouldn't come. So I think adding value incrementally at lower levels helped me get to bigger and better situations, but also learning to communicate at a high level. It's one skill, oral and written communication, which I didn't realize the value of it.
Yeah.
So now I'm meeting Richard Branson, like you spoke about, and I'm talking with him. And the funny thing is, I thought it would be a 2-minute conversation. I saw him at a tennis tournament. We were both in the VIP box there. And he just kept asking me questions, and we kept talking, and 20 minutes went by. And I realized something as I was telling one of my clients about it from London, is that I did the same thing with Sir Richard Branson, the rebel billionaire, the founder of Virgin, that I do in every situation I'm in.
Right.
How can I use my passions, my talents, and my values to create the biggest positive impact possible?
Yeah.
So my heart rate didn't go up, it didn't go down. I wasn't the same sort of shy, reserved person I would have been. I was just excited to meet someone that I had seen on TV, and I liked his energy from what I could see. Right. And he reciprocated. And we talked, and we laughed, and we hugged. It was kind of cool. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So tell us more, because I know you're, as you know, as you were speaking about communication skills, and oral and written. By the way, your articles are phenomenal.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, we'll have more information on the website if anyone is interested in reading and hearing you more. I find the people that I connect with, and when we're doing branding for the show and things like that, the ones that are willing to get vulnerable and share themselves and their stuff, those are the most captivating individuals. You want to know more about them?
You have to get vulnerable because most people, they've had a sickness in their family or a setback, or they've had to go to a new country where the language is difficult, or they've had a parent abandon them, or they've had to take care of their younger sister or brother. Every problem I had in my life, I created for myself. So I can't get up here and speak to people who have real situations and tough things that they're working with. I made horrible decisions, and I had to recalibrate and pick myself up. So if I'm not willing to tell the story of what I went through, how much more...
And people don't connect with perfection, because no one truly is
That's good news. That's good
a perfect person,
Certainly
right?
Not me,
so we're all learning and growing along the way. So when you hit rock bottom, what was that like for you? I could imagine having, acquired so much success and then just totally falling to the bottom. Like, what was happening?
One of the scariest things about that situation was I looked at myself as being so self-sufficient. I looked at myself as someone who could handle the things that life threw at me. Because I had been so shy and such a bad communicator earlier, I was feeling better about myself, and I was saying, okay, I'm heading in the right direction. But I couldn't get through that by myself. I had moments where I thought I was okay, and then things would get horrible for me again. I had to rely on my friends to help me out financially, to bring me food, to sit there and just listen to me ramble about things that didn't matter.
And that must have felt embarrassing at
it was
that point,
it was
right?
horrible, because even the businesses I tried to get myself out of the hole, they failed all over again. And I ended up with compounded issues because I was trying to grab at everything I could grab to prove to myself and to people that this was just an anomaly. I really was. So.
And that's the worst, when you're not only being, having to try to prove everyone else, but proving that to yourself.
It was a very difficult situation.
How was that internal conflict? How did you even get out of that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, because it would seem like that's where the conflict started. But the conflict was already there. It just got so much worse at that point, because when you do have a successful business and all of the things that you wanted or you thought you wanted growing up, you can kind of lie to yourself, and I certainly lied to myself, and I said, like, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. But once all that was taken from me, and once I was at rock bottom and I'm broke and I've got no business and my debt is so big I don't even know how I'm going to begin paying it back. I realized that there was another problem that I hadn't even addressed, and that was, what impact am I making on the world? How am I using my time and energy to create things? And I was so wrapped up in myself and all the things that I'd hoped to build. And again, one of the lies that I told myself was, once I get there, I will do these other things.
Right.
But when I was dealing with that level of failure, there was nowhere to hide. Couldn't hide from myself. And so it was more than humility. It was more than embarrassing. It was realizing that I have been heading in the wrong direction completely. And it's not about just doing a 180. It's about I have to do a lot of work on myself. I need a lot of help from other people. I don't have all the answers, and I need to start going in a different direction. So just that pivotal place of turning around, the spectrum of emotions that I went through and all of that, and it was such a long period of time.
Yeah.
Sounds like it was
it sounds like it was like a long nightmare.
Oh my goodness! I would say it took about 5 to 6 years of reading and work and that to change my mindset. Yeah. But it took another 2 or 3 years to have the courage to implement it in everything that I was doing.
Yeah.
So I guess what I like to say to people who ask me about my story and all of that is the Hollywood version is really easy to tell.
Yeah.
But the actual process, it took longer to go in the right direction, just to begin going in the right direction, than it did to gain everything I had in the first place.
Wow.
That's the hard work.
That's amazing. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's amazing because for a lot of people, they turn around and they're like, I'm going to go up this mountain now. And they get stuck there.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what's lovely about what you just, your story is that not only did you, put in the time, the daily increments, made the changes. Now you're helping other people do that. Can you tell us more about how you're inspiring everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite simple. It's really, really simple when you think about it. The hard part is doing it for every one of your actions.
Right.
So the first thing I ask myself is, am I looking externally? Are you looking externally to define anything about where you'll end up? So are you putting the responsibility and the opportunity on yourself, or are you looking to others? That's number one. Yeah. The number two is a sort of weird relationship between fear and the way you feel about it. Fear is great. Fear is necessary. There's a big difference between fear and danger. Yeah. If you're being chased by a mountain lion, danger. If you're afraid of trying a new business, fear. Right. But the fear is a good indication that you're engaged, that this is important to you. Yes. But I always like to think of it as, okay, there's two types of discomfort. There's the discomfort that comes from never having tried something before. That's what I want to do. Yes. But I want to have the comfort that what I'm doing is inside of my highest values. Right. So I always want to be at those extremes. This is something that this is my passion. It's something that I care about. It's the impact I want to make on the world. But I'm really afraid of the way that this is going to end up. That's where I look. And then the last point is that I don't look at things as far as where will I end up one day? Right. How big of a stage will I be on? How big of a client will I have? Yeah. I'm not responsible for that. I'm responsible for, did I write this business plan the absolute best I could? Yeah. Did I treat this person as a human being who has value, or did I look at them as a stepping stone to something else? Wow. And so that's the key, because no one sees whether I do one version of a client plan or 15. Right. But I want to keep reminding myself, this thing that I'm doing right now, this interview with you, Cherene, what if this is the only thing I ever do? Yeah. Am I okay with this representing everything I'll ever be in legacy? So it raises the altitude of your decisions. It gives you this awesome perspective where you don't have to worry about what happens in the future. Keep your feet moving. Yes. Look inside rather than outside. Be really uncomfortable in all the things you do, except for your values. Be unbelievably strong in those. Yeah. And at the end of the day, each individual situation, be impeccable for that. And in my experience, the rest will take care of itself. Wow,
that's it, man. I must say that alone, I think, will take someone, to the next level. Yeah. Just the excellence at every step.
Absolutely.
That's all you. Well, thank you so much,
my
Alexander,
pleasure.
for being
great
on the
to be
show.
Here.
I thank you. It's been great. Let's just give him a warm thank you.
Connect with Alexander Michael Gittens for keynote speaking and media details. For articles, information, and all social media links, visit alexandermichaelgittens.com.